Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Let's go to the next part of redox reaction. Here we'll continue the types of redox reactions. In previous session we have discussed combination redox reaction and decomposition redox reaction. In this session we'll continue with displacement and disproportionation redox reactions. Let's see what do you mean by displacement redox reactions. In this type, a more reactive element displaces less reactive element from its compound. राइट, डिस्प्लेसमेंट में क्या होता है, एक ज्यादा रिएक्टिव एलिमेंट लेस रिएक्टिव एलिमेंट को उसके कंपाउंड से डिस्प्लेस करता है. ओके, मींस जनरली वी कैन राइट से एक्स वाई is some compound, you are treating it with some element z. That time what happens is the z can displace x or y. Condition: z should be more reactive than x or y, so you will be getting xz plus y, right? So a more reactive element will be displacing a less reactive element from its compound. So such redox reactions we call them as displacement redox reactions. Okay, so this more reactive element can be a metal or a non-metal, and this less reactive element also can be a metal or a non-metal. Okay, so this is the way how we define or explain this displacement redox reactions. Those redox reactions where a more reactive element displaces a less reactive element from its compound are called displacement redox reactions. Okay, let's see these based on the एलिमेंट डिस्प्लेस्ड. जो एलिमेंट डिस्प्लेस हो जाता है उसके बेसिस पे हम इसको दो कैटेगरी में डिवाइड करते हैं. एक हम बोलते हैं मेटल डिस्प्लेसमेंट और दूसरा हम बोलते हैं नॉन मेटल डिस्प्लेसमेंट. राइट, लेट्स सी metal displacement redox reaction. In this type what happens is a less reactive metal is displaced from its compound by a more reactive metal. मेटल डिस्प्लेसमेंट में एक मेटल डिस्प्लेस हो जाता है. कौन डिस्प्लेस करते हैं उसे? दूसरा मेटल जो कि उससे ज्यादा रिएक्टिव है. राइट, लेस रिएक्टिव मेटल is displaced from its compound by a more reactive metal. Right, like example we'll take, if you take zinc treated with copper sulfate solution. Copper sulfate solution is a blue colored solution, right? When you prepare its solution it will be blue in color. So in that copper sulfate solution you will add up zinc. After some time what you will find is the blue color solution will change to colorless because zinc sulfate will be formed, and at the bottom side of the container you will find precipitate or brown color substance that will be nothing but copper. Right, so means what is happening over here is zinc is more reactive than copper. राइट, जिंक क्या है? इट इज मोर रिएक्टिव देन कॉपर. कॉपर से ज्यादा रिएक्टिव है, इस वजह से ये कॉपर जो लेस रिएक्टिव है ये अपने कंपाउंड से डिस्प्लेस हो जा रहा है. कौन डिस्प्लेस कर रहे हैं इसे? जिंक. जिंक इज डिस्प्लेसिंग कॉपर फ्रॉम इट्स कंपाउंड और दिस कॉपर इज गेटिंग डिस्प्लेस्ड फ्रॉम इट्स कंपाउंड ड्यू टू जिंक. राइट, overall we can say a more reactive metal is displacing less reactive metal or less reactive metal is displaced by more reactive metal. Right, metal displacement में क्या होता है? Less reactive metal is displaced from its compound by more reactive metal. Okay, one more example. If you go with whether it is redox or not, you can write like this: zinc plus sulfate is common at both sides, so it is like a spectator ion, I will write only here Cu2 plus. Copper in this compound is having charges plus 2. On the other side, you will get Zn2 plus Cu. So here, uncombined form, we write it oxidation state as 0. Copper monoatomic ion, oxidation number is plus 2 because it will be equal to its charge. This is also monoatomic ion, oxidation number will be equal to its charge plus 2, and this is in uncombined form, we write it as 0. So here zinc to zinc, when you check what is happening, 0 to plus 2, it is undergoing oxidation. And copper from plus 2 to 0, what is happening? It is undergoing reduction because it is decreasing from plus 2 to 0. So as oxidation and reduction is taking place, we will call it as a redox reaction. Okay. In the same manner, instead of zinc, you can write example by taking iron, because iron is also more reactive than copper, right? जिंक के बदले आप आयरन लिख के भी एक एग्जाम्पल बना सकते हैं, क्योंकि आयरन भी कॉपर से ज्यादा रिएक्टिव है. ओके, if I take another example, magnesium treated with titanium tetrachloride. Titanium tetrachloride, that time this titanium is a less reactive metal, it will be displaced by more reactive magnesium. So you will be getting here titanium, and you will be getting the other product will be magnesium chloride, MgCl2. Okay, same manner, if I take aluminium treated with chromium oxide, a very important reaction carried out in metallurgy where chromium has to be separated from its oxide form. We use aluminium as a reducing agent. So this chromium will be replaced by aluminium, which is more reactive. So you will be getting Al2O3 plus chromium. Right? So here these are all redox reactions where a less reactive metal is replaced by a more reactive metal from their compounds. Right? यहाँ पे भी आप चार्जेस देखो, मैग्नीशियम का रहेगा 0, टिटेनियम x लेके कैलकुलेट करो, आपको आएगा +4. हियर टिटेनियम अनकम्बाइंड फॉर्म में है 0, मैग्नीशियम कंपाउंड फॉर्म में है तो मैग्नीशियम अल्कालाइन अर्थ मेटल है, कभी भी आता है ये +2, और क्लोराइड है -1. Same way, uncombined form, aluminum we take it as 0. Chromium, when you take x and calculate, you will get +3. Here, aluminium you will get +3. As it is in compound form, you have to calculate by taking x, and generally aluminum will be having +3 charge. And chromium here, uncombined form, it will be 0. Check out which species are undergoing oxidation and reduction and mark out like this. Okay. So which species is undergoing? Magnesium is undergoing oxidation and titanium is undergoing reduction. Here aluminium is undergoing oxidation and chromium is undergoing reduction. Okay, so these are some examples where a less reactive metal is displaced by a more reactive metal. Okay, next we'll see non-metal displacement. Non-metal displacement redox reactions are those where a non-metal is replaced from its compound by a metal or a more reactive non-metal, right? So non-metal, name itself says non-metal is going to be displaced, right? Who is going to displace it? Who is going to displace? It will be displaced by a metal और ए मोर रिएक्टिव नॉन मेटल. यहाँ पे एक नॉन मेटल डिस्प्लेस हो जाता है, रिप्लेस हो जाता है. कौन डिस्प्लेस कर सकते हैं उसे? एक मेटल डिस्प्लेस कर सकता है या कोई मोर रिएक्टिव नॉन मेटल डिस्प्लेस कर सकता है. और ये नॉन मेटल जो डिस्प्लेस होता है खासकर होता है हाइड्रोजन या फिर ऑक्सीजन. दूसरे भी हैं, जैसे कि हैलोजेंस भी डिस्प्लेस हो सकते हैं। ज्यादातर रिएक्शंस में हाइड्रोजन रिप्लेस होता है या फिर ऑक्सीजन, राइट। विल सी सम एग्जांपल्स। से सोडियम मेटल, drop it in water, you will be getting sodium hydroxide, liberating hydrogen gas. It will be giving out hydrogen gas, right? So sodium, when you balance over here, sodium metal is more reactive metal. It is displacing hydrogen from its compound. Hydrogen gas is liberated, right? Hydrogen gas is going to be liberated. Okay. In the same manner, if you take calcium, treat it with water, you will be getting calcium hydroxide, and it also gives hydrogen gas. Okay. So like this, what happens? In these examples, hydrogen is a non-metal. Who is displacing them? A metal which is more reactive, that is sodium and calcium. These are metals, they are displacing a non-metal from their compound, right? So the product formed is hydrogen gas. Okay. If you take some other examples, instead of water, if I take some acids, zinc cannot displace hydrogen from water. Okay, whereas zinc has the ability to displace hydrogen from dilute acids like HCl. So zinc treated with HCl, you will be getting zinc chloride forming hydrogen gas, right? So these are all redox reactions, remember, right? When you check their oxidation states, one species will be undergoing oxidation, the other species will be undergoing reduction. Like sodium, uncombined form, we take it as 0, hydrogen is always 1, oxygen -2. हियर सोडियम कंपाउंड फॉर्म में है तो इसका हम चार्ज लेंगे 1, अल्कली मेटल है, ऑक्सीजन इज -2, हाइड्रोजन ऑलवेज इट विल बी 1, right? And here hydrogen in its elemental form, it will become 0, right? So sodium from 0 to 1, it is changing from 0 to 1, so it is undergoing what? Oxidation. Whereas hydrogen from +1, it is becoming what? 0. So it is what? Reduction. It is undergoing reduction. Okay. Same way, calcium oxidation state will be 0 here, and here it will become +2 as it is an alkaline earth metal. So calcium undergoes oxidation, hydrogen undergoes reduction. Here also, zinc from 0 it becomes +2. Zinc undergoes oxidation, hydrogen undergoes reduction. Because hydrogen from +1, it is going to become here 0. So in all these examples, hydrogen is undergoing reduction from H2O or HCl, it is changing to hydrogen gas. Okay. If you take some examples, some other examples where oxygen also will be displaced or some other non-metals will be displaced by a more reactive non-metal. ये examples जो थे, non-metal is displaced by a metal. Now we'll see some examples where a non-metal will be displaced by a more reactive non-metal, right? Like fluorine, when you talk about, fluorine is the strongest oxidizing agent in the periodic table, right? Fluorine F2, it is the strongest oxidizing agent in the periodic table. So whenever it is reacting with some other substances, it will always participate in reduction and acts as a strong oxidizing agent. So it has the ability to displace oxygen also from water. When fluorine gas is treated with water, you will be getting HF giving out oxygen gas. right? So in this way, fluorine can displace oxygen gas from water and forms HF. So fluorine here, oxidation state we take it as 0, hydrogen +1, oxygen will be taken as -2, whereas here HF, hydrogen will be +1, fluorine will be -1, and oxygen in its elemental form we take it as 0, right? So fluorine to fluorine, what is happening? 0 to -1, decrease in oxidation number, so it is called as reduction. And oxygen to oxygen will not connect hydrogen now because both sides hydrogen is having same charge. Will connect oxygen to oxygen from -2 to 0. There is increase in oxidation number, so it is undergoing oxidation, right? So what is happening here? A non-metal is displaced by more reactive non-metal, right? A non-metal is displaced by more reactive non-metal. So this, when you talk about only halogens, in halogens we are having fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. This fluorine can displace chlorine from its compound, bromine from its compound, or iodine from its compound, right? Means because among these four, fluorine is the strongest oxidizing agent. ये क्या कर सकता है? क्लोरीन के कोई कंपाउंड में से क्लोरीन को क्लोरीन गैस बना के रिप्लेस करेगा, ब्रोमाइड से ब्रोमीन बना के रिप्लेस करेगा, और आयोडाइड से आयोडीन बना के रिप्लेस कर देगा, राइट? उसी तरह क्लोरीन कैन डिस्प्लेस ब्रोमीन एंड आयोडीन, bromine can displace only iodine, and iodine cannot displace any of these, right? रिवर्स नहीं ले सकते हैं, right? अब जैसे कि एग्जांपल, if I take chlorine, treat it with potassium bromide solution, you will be getting potassium chloride plus bromine gas. You will be getting potassium chloride and bromine, which will be actually available in the form of liquid, right? Bromine is a volatile liquid, it will be available in the form of liquid. So like this, what happens is, balance check करो, यहाँ पे Cl2 2KCl 2KBr, right? So chlorine is more reactive non-metal than bromide, so it will oxidize bromide to bromine. क्लोरीन का चार्ज यहाँ पे हम लेंगे 0 because it is in its elemental form. पोटेशियम अल्कली मेटल +1, ब्रोमाइड -1, halogen है. Potassium again alkali metal. Chloride in this compound you have to take -1, and bromine elemental form 0. Okay, so chlorine to chlorine there is decrease in oxidation number, it is reduction. And bromine to bromine, when you check -1 to 0, there is increase in oxidation number, it is oxidation. Okay, so here in these examples, same way you can write here bromine, and here you can write iodine. So Br2 plus Ki, you will get 2 KBr plus I2. It will be available in solid form, right? So what is happening is, a less reactive non-metal is displaced by a more reactive non-metal from their compounds. Okay, so these are all examples for displacement redox reactions. आपको एग्जाम्पल दिया जाएगा, आपको आइडेंटिफाई करना रहता है कि ये कौन से टाइप का रेडॉक्स रिएक्शन है, और या फिर कौन से टाइप का डिस्प्लेसमेंट रेडॉक्स रिएक्शन है. अगर कौन से टाइप का रेडॉक्स रिएक्शन है तो आप सीधा सीधा डिस्प्लेसमेंट लिख सकते हैं. If they are asking you which type of displacement, then you have to check who is displacing whom. If a metal is displaced, it will be a metal displacement. If a non-metal is displaced, that time you have to write a non-metal displacement redox reaction. Okay, going to the next category of redox reactions. Disproportionation redox reaction. disproportionation redox reactions. In this type, a species participates both in oxidation and reduction, right? In this type of redox reaction, what happens? Same species will be taking part both in oxidation as well as reduction. Till now, what we have seen is two different species were there. One was participating in oxidation, the other was participating in reduction. Whereas here, when you talk about disproportionation redox reaction, same species will be participating in oxidation process as well as in reduction process, right? How it can happen? It can happen only when the species is having intermediate oxidation state. ये कब पॉसिबल है? जब स्पीशीज का ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट इंटरमीडिएट है, यानी कि उसका हाईएस्ट भी नहीं और उसका लोवेस्ट भी नहीं. अब जैसे कि एग्जांपल sulfur, when you consider sulfur can show minimum oxidation state of -2, maximum it can show +6. If it loses all 6 electrons, it will become stable, or if it gains 2 electrons, then also it will become stable. That's why minimum it can show -2, maximum it can show +6, right? So it cannot show more than +6 now. इससे ज़्यादा पॉसिबल नहीं है. मतलब +6 में अगर ये सल्फर ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट +6 है इसका, तो ये और इंक्रीज नहीं कर सकता है. मीन्स इट कैन नॉट फर्दर अंडरगो ऑक्सीडेशन. इट कैन नॉट अंडरगो फर्दर ऑक्सीडेशन. इन द सेम मैनर -2 से और कम नहीं हो सकता है. अगर कोई कंपाउंड में सल्फर का चार्ज -2 है तो और वो कम नहीं हो सकता. मतलब इट कैन नॉट अंडरगो फर्दर रिडक्शन. It cannot undergo further reduction. But if sulfur is having some oxidation state as 0, सल्फर का ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट अगर 0 है या +2 है या +4 है, राइट, इंटरमीडिएट, पूरा कम भी नहीं पूरा ज्यादा भी नहीं, that time what happens is it can increase its charge from 0 to maximum 6 and it will undergo oxidation. At the same time, it can reduce its charge to -2 and can undergo reduction. तो दोनों पॉसिबिलिटीज आते हैं. ये ऑक्सीडेशन में भी पार्टिसिपेट कर सकता है, रिडक्शन में भी पार्टिसिपेट कर सकता है, क्योंकि उसका ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट इन बिटवीन है. ज्यादा भी नहीं है +6 के जैसा और कम भी नहीं है -2 जैसा, राइट? इट इज इन बिटवीन. 0 हो सकता है, +2 हो सकता है, +4 हो सकता है. इन बिटवीन के ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट्स जब आते हैं तो वहां पे पॉसिबिलिटी कौन सी अराइज होती है? oxidation or reduction. That species can participate in oxidation as well as reduction, right? So that is called as what? Intermediate oxidation state. Okay. अब जैसे कि एग्जाम्पल hydrogen peroxide I'll take. It decomposes actually to produces H2O plus O2. But with respect to redox reaction, we say it disproportionates. है तो ये डिकम्पोजिशन रिएक्शन, लेकिन इसको हम ये कैटेगरीज के बेसिस पे क्या बोलेंगे? इट डिस्प्रपोर्शनेट्स टू प्रोड्यूस वाटर एंड ऑक्सीजन. व्हाई वी आर टेलिंग it is undergoing, it is a disproportionation redox reaction is we can see the oxidation states here. Hydrogen peroxide is there. Hydrogen peroxide, in that hydrogen peroxide, hydrogen charge is -1, oxygen is in peroxide form, its charge will be -1. Here water, hydrogen will be 1, oxygen will be -2, and here this oxygen is in elemental form, its charge is taken as 0. Okay, so hydrogen from 1 to 1, same, no change, where we can see two different oxygen here. Here it is -1, okay. On the right side you can see this oxygen is having charge as -2, whereas this oxygen is having charge as 0. So -1 to -2, when you check, it is undergoing what? Reduction. Why? There is decrease in oxidation number. Whereas from this oxygen to the other oxygen here, what is happening? -1 to 0, there is increase in oxidation number, so it is oxidation. It is oxidation. So here we can see in this example, same species, same oxygen is participating in oxidation as well as reduction. Such reactions we call them as disproportionation redox reactions. Okay. If I take one more example, chlorine in basic medium gives hypochlorous ion ClO minus plus Cl minus plus H2O. This is some equation given to you. So chlorine, what charge you will take in it is in its elemental form, we take it as 0, oxygen always -2, hydrogen always 1. Here chlorine you have to calculate by taking it as X. So you will be getting here chlorine as +1. Oxygen remains -2 as it is. This chlorine monoatomic ion, we have to take its charge as -1. And here hydrogen always 1, oxygen always -2. Okay. So if you compare oxygen and hydrogen on both sides, they are having same oxidation states. Whereas chlorine to this chlorine, when you take 0 to +1, there is increase in oxidation number, so it is oxidation. Again chlorine to this chlorine, when you take 0 to -1, there is decrease in oxidation number, so it is reduction. Okay, so same species is participating in oxidation as well as reduction. That time we call them as disproportionation redox reactions. ओके आसानी से आइडेंटिफाई हो जाएगा, आपको कंपेयर करने के बाद ही पता चलेगा। अगर एक ही एलिमेंट के दो अलग अलग स्पीशीज मिलते हैं प्रोडक्ट के तौर पे और दोनों में चार्ज अलग अलग है, राइट, तब आप क्या बोलेंगे, इट इज अंडरगोइंग डिस्प्रपोर्शनेशन। एंड थिंग इज दैट one will be less compared to the initial 0 to -1 हो गया, यहाँ पे डिक्रीज हो गया और दूसरे स्पीशीज में इंक्रीज हो जाता है, तभी आप उन्हें डिस्प्रपोर्शनेशन बोलेंगे, राइट। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि दोनों हायर ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट वाले, दैट विल बी डिफरेंट, राइट। एंड हियर व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द रिवर्स रिएक्शंस, reverse direction of this disproportionation we call it as comproportionation redox reactions. Okay, reverse of this, if it is given to you, that time you have to say it is a comproportionation redox reaction. Okay, so this is regarding all the different types of redox reactions: combination, decomposition, displacement and disproportionation, right? So commonly they can ask you for 1 mark, they will be giving you the reaction and they will be asking you to identify, or in the NEET or KSET examination also, which of the redox reaction is disproportionation or displacement. Like these questions will be asked, 4 options will be given, you have to select the correct redox reaction. Okay,